fantastic. A lot of stuff delicious. You know, there you go.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Anywho, I want to talk about exciting, delicious ayahuasca.
Again, early piece, Santiago Stelly the Great. He and I went to the Brazilian border and traveled down a river, and we met with people. There was someone who was making ayahuasca in a village, and
Sorry, how do you make ayahuasca?
It's a tea, so you boil plants in water and set. I mean, the traditions often involve an enormous number of plants, and you can certainly make very complicated, intricate forms of ayahuasca. And in some of the ceremonial, ritualistic processes, the very preparation is like a dance, where as they're cutting the vine, everyone is chopping it and pounding it in rhythm, and it's a song. So every aspect of it, it's like elves working in like a fairy tale, like
Santa's workshop.
Yeah, Santa's workshop kind of situation. Like my friend is a member of a ayahuasca church in Hawaii, Santo Daime, and he sent me videos that he takes, and it's really like that. Everyone's singing as they pound the vine, and so for them, it's not just a tea. It's like every aspect: the growing, the harvesting, the breaking of the vine.
How many elements are there?
2.
Oh, just 2.
Yeah, well, 2 for someone like me too. But if you're part of a tradition, it might be an enormous number of other little things. But the main.
And what are the 2?
One is usually a DMT-containing plant called Psychotria viridis. It's also called chacruna. That was first collected and brought for botanical analysis by William S. Burroughs. And
No.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
William S. Burroughs found DMT.
This is like an amazing, Andrew Gallimore, this DMT researcher, actually just conveyed this to me recently. I was kind of amazed by it as well. Yeah, he wasn't the person that discovered the molecule DMT, but he was the first person to collect samples of the DMT-containing plant and bring it to...
How did he find them?
In South America. He was ayahuasca. I mean, he didn't invent it as an indigenous tradition, but he was the first outsider to go and collect a sample for...
So he went and did an ayahuasca ceremony.
Yeah, he did. He tried the vine, he tried these compounds.
And then he brought it back.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what's the difference between DMT and ayahuasca? Because DMT is it again hit the subculture like crazy. Everyone was doing DMT, but it was like fast, but it's like super strong, like the strongest drug ever.
Yeah. So DMT is extremely strong, but one of the interesting things about it, one reason that people have these ideas about it is because it's ultra short acting. So the experience is like being rocketed to the peak of a mushroom trip, to the very, very peak in a matter of seconds, and then coming back down in a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
And because you can go so far and come back down, people tend to take really high doses of it. You can use a lower dose and just have a mild effect from it. But what people are excited by is that you can take a level that if you were doing it with mushrooms, you would be gone for the entire day. It would be a big deal. But you can do this, and because it's only a couple minutes, it's not necessarily a huge deal. But the reason that the duration is so short is because there's an enzyme in your body called monoamine oxidase that is able to break down DMT very rapidly. And so the kind of amazing innovation of ayahuasca is the introduction of a second non-DMT containing plant that contains an enzyme inhibitor. So when you combine the DMT with the enzyme inhibitor, suddenly you can drink DMT and it isn't broken down, it becomes orally active, and the experience is much longer.
DMT, ayahuasca, ibogaine, lots of barfing, and I talk to you. Barfing scares me because I don't like it. What's your favorite out of all those 3?
Favorite? I don't know. I mean, DMT, ayahuasca, ibogaine, they're all so interesting. I don't really know that I have a favorite of these things.
Like Burgundy, Bordeaux, I don't really know. Do you have a favorite drug at all?
No. I mean, there's things like caffeine that are extremely useful.
Yeah.
It's hard not to love them, but it's also a boring answer to favorite drug.
No, it isn't.
Okay.
Fine with me. Why has ayahuasca or ayahuasca ceremonies become so popular, you think?
It's a few reasons, spiritual reasons. It creates a framework where people are supervised using psychedelics, which is also something that doesn't otherwise really exist. There are mushroom ceremonies or maybe LSD ceremonies somewhere, but this is, for somebody that wants to go deep, a way to do it without just sitting in their apartment or something like that, and having someone who's sort of expert on the experience to watch over them, and a framework where it's permissible to go really, really deep. You conceivably could do something like that by yourself in your apartment, but most people wouldn't feel comfortable. So that's part of it, is this is like a framework where it's okay to take a really high dose of a psychedelic and go really, really deep. And also I think that people are attracted to the idea that the pain associated with the experience differentiates it from typical drug experience patterns.
What's the pain?
Vomiting, potential emotional turmoil, crying, but the idea is that in this pain you may process some trauma, and you may...
Okay, why? Like, are you doing it is this recreation? Are you doing it for therapy? Is it, it's for depression, anxiety? Like, what's the general idea of I'm going to go to Peru and do ayahuasca?
I think a lot of people are depressed or suffering from some kind of existential malaise, missing something.
That's going to be fixed by ayahuasca?
That's the hope, I think, is that it will give you some inspiration or some kick. It's maybe a variation of the same reasons that people use any drug.
Has it fixed anything in your brain?
Maybe a little.
Like what?
Well, it's hard to say. Actually, the last time I used ayahuasca, it was I was thinking about Louis C.K. and I was thinking like, oh, he's really great. Like that's exactly how a human being should be completely transparent about who you are and your grotesque compulsions, and everyone will understand you and forgive you, and no one could ever hate you, and no one could ever hold anything against you, and you will be accepted because of your truth. And then like maybe a couple months after this experience, he was Me Too'd, and the revelations of that particular ayahuasca experience were demonstrated to be profoundly wrong.
Yeah, I was wondering on the timeline. Okay, after all these years and all these different substances we've tried, anything we have no interest in trying?
Absolutely no interest whatsoever. I mean, things like Datura seem pretty challenging, or scopolamine.
Okay, so that's another thing I wanted to
Which is one of the things Vice really built its video brand on.
Welcome to Bogota, Colombia. We're here chasing after the most dangerous drug in the world, burundanga. Burundanga is the source of scopolamine, which is basically like the worst roofie you can ever imagine.
Yeah, scopolamine. So let's talk about that. What is it and why? Like, how does it even work?
It is a chemical that's present in a number of plants in the nightshade family that interferes with signaling at cholinergic receptors, and it's an anticholinergic drug. It's kind of like Benadryl, diphenhydramine. It's a drug that causes a weird type of anticholinergic delirium.
I don't know what anticholinergic is.
Interfering with acetylcholine signaling or acetylcholine receptors. And it is characterized by people having total amnesia, getting very hot, but having sort of dry skin, unslakable thirst, becoming
Autosuggestive or whatever.
well, that's one of the claims as well, is that you can get people to do your bidding when they're in the state, which maybe you can. I don't know if there's any like real direct pharmacological justification for that, but people are going to be totally discombobulated out of it. Like, so you could conceivably get them to do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, just to be clear, like, so we've found scopolamine when sort of in Colombia and stuff, when you'd get a lady of the evening and they'd sort of blow it or do whatever, and then you would find that you've emptied out your bank account and you've given all that, and they would have video footage of the guy like taking out the money, and he's either doesn't remember or was like, I was just told to do it, and I was like a zombie. So funny drug, weird, freaky. It was wasn't it the Tonton Macoutes that they said that they were all on scopolamine? Do you remember that? Do you ever hear about that?
I didn't hear about that, but it's not totally surprising.
Yeah. What else we got? So scopolamine. Did you ever look into scopolamine? What are your thoughts on scopolamine?
I'm friends with this neuroscientist named Jack Alaka, who's like far more so than me, the ultimate self-experiment guy.
Yeah.
And he'll drink nothing but his own urine for 2 weeks.
Why?
To understand what it does to him. He really likes to do weird self-experiments. And if anyone I know would have enjoyed scopolamine, it would have been this guy. Like, if I had to rank everyone I've ever met who could potentially extract some benefit from the experience, he would have probably been the #1 contender, and he didn't enjoy it. So after hearing him talk about how harrowing the experience was, it made me think, all right, if I ever do this, it will be done with the understanding that it will be a very painful experience, but maybe it'll be psychopharmacologically interesting and worthwhile just to basically be able to say that I
How
did
many
it.
drugs have you done, would you say, roughly?
A lot, like a lot.
I was watching this morning one of like fish heads when he went into like a tumor, or like not a tumor, a coma kind of thing. What happened with fish heads?
We caught 3 different species that these fishermen claim produce some kind of inebriating effect. They say that it makes you drunk or that it increases the vividness of your dreams.
Well, this is another one of these bizarre pharmacological mysteries that I was not able to solve in a satisfactory way, but I dedicated an episode to it. It's one of these things that people constantly talk about because there's these scattered medical and journalistic reports of people consuming fish and entering some kind of hallucinatory state. There's a weird medical term for it, ichthyolienotoxism, that's what it's called.
There you go.
And the question was, well, could we figure out what was responsible for this? Could we identify the fish? Is it always that fish? Is it something the fish is eating? Is it something that we could extract and chemically characterize? Is it something that's already known about? Is it people doing a weird job of describing symptoms of food poisoning or something else that's familiar, which is always a possibility as well? In the same way that people will have radically different descriptions of the same drug experience. If you look at, for example, Thomas de Quincey's descriptions of opium in Confessions of an English Opium Eater, he's describing it almost as if it were a psychedelic hallucinogen type drug. And if you hear reports of people taking oxycodone, it doesn't sound like Thomas de Quincey, but they're describing pharmacologically very similar substances.
Right.
So could it be the case that certain people are just really sick and it kind of sounds like a hallucination in the way that it's described by a doctor? Also, one of the major medical case reports related to this turned out to be semi-fraudulent. This was another implicating a species, Sarpa salpa. So
It's like a fugu fish or something? Like
well, that's a real thing, because with fugu, you have a very well-characterized poison, TTX, tetrodotoxin. But with this hallucinogenic fish, it's not quite clear.
So what did you do?
Went to Madagascar, went to neighboring island Réunion, and ate supposedly hallucinogenic fish, and did not have any kind of a clear response, and took fish samples back to the United States and chemically analyzed them and didn't find anything. I mean, it's such a fascinating thing. It would be a lot of fun. It's one of these things where, I was making the show and you have whatever it is, 10 days or something like that to solve a mystery that people have been debating scientifically and medically for the better part of a century, and it's ambitious to do it, but we tried. It's actually something that I think about. I wish we'd spend more time just at fish markets, just talking to fishermen all day.
What about frogs?
Frogs.
Yeah, tree frogs and licking tree frogs and poison.
There's no licking of the frog.
No.
But yeah, frogs.
Did you ever do any frog business?
Oh yeah.
Like what?
The waxy monkey tree frog
Yeah,
in Brazil.
What's this
It was
frog?
one of the early ones, yeah.
Hello, I'm Hamilton Morris. We're currently boating through a flooded forest on our way to meet the Mayaruna Indians, who use a strange frog-derived drug they call sapo.
Sapo Diaries, yeah. It was weird.
Some mild closed-eye visuals. It does feel slightly psychedelic. I think it might be best for me to lay in my hammock now. I'm feeling extremely woozy.
Not really classically psychedelic, more of a kind of, but definitely psychoactive. Not really my vibe, but I remember, Vice was launching the Brazil issue, and I remember Santiago calling me and saying, hey, do you want to go to Brazil, and do you know any weird drug stuff there, and is there anything we could do? And I told him, yeah, there's this weird frog that we could try to find, this Phila medusa bicolor species, and we could see what happens. And he said, okay, yeah, let's do that, and then we did.
Did he do something?
I don't think he did, actually, yeah.
You're more courageous with your frontal lobe. What's the highest you've ever been?
The highest I've ever been, like when you say high, like on any substance ever?
Any.
I mean, at some doses of something like ketamine, you just lose consciousness, which is maybe the highest, I don't know, but...
Like, what about ayahuasca? Like, okay, ayahuasca, ibogaine, like, have you seen your relatives, and have you seen time?
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, I've definitely not known who I was, and where I was and what year I was. I've lost all sense of any contextual information about my identity.
And do you worry about that, like, not being coming back to reality?
No, at that time, there was no coming back because I didn't know who I was. So coming back, to even have a fear of not coming back to reality, you have to have some sense of where you were before.
And what was that on, sorry?
This was actually synthetic DMT with a pharmaceutical MAOI. It was so-called pharmawaska.
Pharmawaska. So you made it?
In this instance, I didn't make the DMT. Someone else had made it.
But you do make drugs that are just like, you're kind of like a, I don't know, it's on the periphery of my consciousness, but like a guy who would make things and then like he would he's a wizard. You're like a wizard. You're like a wizard. Speaking of dark and weird stories, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about it. If we aren't, that's fine. You don't have to talk about it. But you told me a story, and I think you're trying to make a movie out of it, which I think is a great idea, about a woman who got into ketamine and was an heiress and then disappeared, but might be a time traveler.
Oh yeah, I would love to talk about this. Not only would I love to talk about this, I've never talked about this publicly.
Okay, breaking news. This is incredible story, and
strategically I've never talked about it. And this again is a story that I know so much about because of you in part, where there's a few of these really weird books about drugs that exist, some of which people don't seem to know about very much, but they have a cult following. I mean, the chemist Alexander Shulgin wrote these two books with his wife, Pikal and Tikal, that are their experiences testing all these different drugs on themselves and often having sex and describing the sexual response to these different drugs. And these books, Pikal and Tikal, are amazing and are really, really...
Did you ever do that? So experiment with sex and drugs?
I think probably most people that have tried these things have tried that, but... So these books are fascinating. And there's a number of these kind of underground texts, but there's one that I'd always been obsessed with that was particularly mysterious. You couldn't actually even get a physical copy of this book because reportedly the family of the author had all of them destroyed the book.
Did you have one?
I eventually did get my hands on one. But almost nobody even has a physical. It's not even something you can see.
Who published that?
A computer company called Para Research in Massachusetts. Again, another odd detail of this story. So this book is something that no one ever even gets to see themselves, but a Xerox copy of it is distributed as PDFs or bootlegs. There are also bootlegs that people distribute. Yeah. And this is part of the strange appeal of this mysterious book. And superficially, when you read this book, it's a kind of love story. It's about this woman who's studying past life regression who meets a handsome anesthesiologist named Dr. Howard Altunian, and the two fall in love, and they use ketamine together and find that not only are they in love in this particular incarnation, but in fact their love has spanned all of time in human history, and they have been lovers in many, many different lifetimes. The book is really bizarre, and as she's describing their relationship, it's all very positive about how wonderful it is, but there is, even in her own description, creepy, strange stuff that is emerging, like arguments between her and Howard. So that a lot of the book is based on tape recordings that she made of them injecting ketamine together. And so in the transcribed recordings, Howard will be saying these things like, I don't know what I'm going to do when this book comes out. I'm going to lose my medical license. I worked my whole life to get this medical license, and it's all going to be over. And she's saying, well, you shouldn't think about yourself. You should think about humanity. And this is really a small price to pay. But
I'm sorry, I'm doing a lot of
tension
shit on
between these two people. And
another browser here.
As the book progresses, it also appears as if Marcia Moore is becoming increasingly delusional. She's starting to believe that she is a reincarnation of Cleopatra, and the tone of the book is very mysterious. She toward the end, goes to visit the ketamine researcher John C. Lilly, and he actually warns her because he's just come out of a delusional state himself, where he was concerned that an extraterrestrial computer that he called Solid State Intelligence, that was operating something called ECHO, the Earth Coincidence Control Office, which was like a extraterrestrial computerized coincidence monitoring system that would eventually invade our planet, and the only weapon that mankind would have in this war against this extraterrestrial computer would be dolphins, because dolphins could survive in saltwater, but computers can't.
I'm going to do that just in case it